home from the front lines, Christian Amanpour. Another reason why you can depend on CNN.
Tonight, 2 Oregon teens vanished. Can anyone solve their mysterious disappearance? America's most wanted famous crime fighter John Walsh joins us with the latest on this investigation and lots of other things too, and we'll take your calls, and it's all next on Larry King Live. It's always a great pleasure to welcome him to Larry King Live. It's also an indication sometimes of where the society may be going that he's so frequently a guest. John Walsh, the host of America's Most Wanted, America Strikes Back. His son Adam, as you well know, was abducted and killed in the summer of 1981. That's 21 years ago. Let's discuss first, John, this open case. 2 missing teens in Oregon, 12-year-old Ashley Pond, her friend 13-year-old Miranda Gaddis. Give us a little background.
These first Ashley was kidnapped about a month and a half ago. She never made it to school. She left her house, never made it to the bus. Wasn't reported missing until later that day because she didn't come home from dance class. Vital time lost. I think every school in the country, it should be mandatory that if your child doesn't show up at school, they call you, either at your business or at your home, and say your child hasn't made it.
That's not the usual procedure,
not
right? They're just marked absent, right?
Absent. Some states it's mandatory now, Larry. In some states it's mandatory for public schools to call up for 3 reasons. Truancy, liability for the school, but mainly to say, hey, where's your child? Your child never made it. So then about her beautiful little friend, Miranda Gaddis, who she was in dance class with, went on television and said, I'm so worried about Ashley, we need to keep up the search for Ashley. And then 4.5 weeks later, Miranda gets kidnapped. So now we have 2 little girls, 2 12-year-old girls, one of them 13, one of them 12, missing from the same city. We have
no ransom notes?
No, absolutely a predator.
Was there any protection put around Miranda after it came out that she was her friend and spoke on television?
No. I think the community was alerted, but I think we're dealing with a very smart, very calculating serial predator. I think he grabbed both these girls. Both of them were on their way to the buses, never made it to school. It's come to light that there's another little girl that was murdered 2 months ago, Melissa Bittler, 14 years old, same area, who was found in her neighbor's backyard. She was grabbed on her way home from school, sexually assaulted, and her body found in the neighbor's yard. It's an unsolved homicide, no suspects. This is my personal opinion. I think there's a serial predator in the area. I think he's really good at it. There was an unsolved rape of a girl 2 years prior to that murder of this other little girl. So you've got 4 victims in the same area.
You're saying you think these 2 girls are dead?
I don't want to say they're dead because I know probably their mothers are watching tonight. We've gotten kids back that have been missing as long as 4 and 5 years. Stephen Stainer was kept by a pedophile for 6 years who used him as a sexual toy, kept that boy for 6 years.
So there's always hope.
I never give up hope. But if the reality is, the Justice Department came out with a survey last year and said the vast majority of stranger abducted children are dead within the first 4 hours, that time is crucial. I think it's very hard for someone to keep 2 teenage girls. But, you know, we never give up hope. But the thing is, I want to catch this guy. They got to catch him before he gets another girl.
Similarities. Both, I understand, quite pretty. We've shown pictures.
Yep.
Both single parents, right?
Both single moms. I think it's somebody that's familiar with the neighborhood, familiar with what goes on, familiar with the fact that these girls were going to a bus stop. And probably, you and I have talked about this a lot of times, sexual predators have a certain preference. Some guys like John Wayne Gacy prefer only boys. Some guys like little boys, the guy who was suspected of my son's murder. This guy apparently is into girls of a certain age, 12 or 13. All these girls around the same age, pretty young girls. You went to take part in a town meeting, right? I did it by satellite. It was really, I think it was a great idea. The FBI and the local police, the community is terrified. They're absolutely terrified. This was just yesterday, right? Last night, the parents of the little girl whose body was found were there. The 2 mothers were there, and members of the community who say, we think we have a sexual predator in the area. What do we do? And I say, you have to be on red alert. That's what you have to do. Do the police run dry? What do they do in a case like this? Are they ever alert? There's other things to deal with? How do they treat? This one is a high priority because you've got 2 girls. You don't know what happened to them. They haven't been found dead or alive. So they know there's a sexual predator, a stalker, a kidnapper in the area, and they're on red alert, hoping they'll get a tip. But the answer to your question is, we're up against a wall. I've been profiling these girls now for 5 weeks. Ashley first and then Miranda. We'll do them again this Saturday night. We've gotten over 100 and some tips. The FBI have gotten over 2,000 tips that they've been following up on. Not one lead. Not one single lead.
God forbid, this is the kind of predator who hurt these girls and moved to Massachusetts.
Right.
And is not going to do it again. You're never going to catch him, right?
Well, I don't say they don't do it again, Larry.
Do they always do it?
It's a predilection. It's an obsession. It's their hunters and predators. They don't stop. They do move, yes. We have 3 unsolved cases in Spotsylvania, Virginia, of 3 little girls, very similar to this case, kidnapped after school, 2 sisters and another girl. Very similar looking, very similar in age.
Could be the same person?
Could be the same guy, moved from Spotsylvania, Virginia, up to this Oregon city, scopes out the neighborhood, checks it out, gets the lay of the land, and continues his predatory.
How are they usually caught? Leads, a tip?
They're usually caught by luck. I hate to say it. They're usually caught by luck. They're usually, I know for a fact in the Spotsylvania case, we did not have one piece of DNA. This guy, the FBI Psychological Profiling Division down there in Quantico, the serial killer unit, has been studying this and said this guy is probably one of the best serial killers of children they've ever run up against. If he is the guy that moved to Oregon, we're going to have a very scary guy. But it's usually luck.
No clues.
No clues. But you know what it is? It's usually luck. It's somebody who says, you know, I have a weird neighbor, or this guy is really bizarre. You know, he acts bizarre. Check this guy out. Sometimes we get lucky. We just caught one in El Paso just before Christmas who kidnapped a little girl out of a Walmart. He was so smart, he was out on parole, Larry, for raping an 8-year-old girl. He should have never been out of prison. In my book, he should have done the time. He was given 10 years. He was let out after 1 year. He took this little girl, stripped her clothes off completely so there'd be no evidence, burned her face with lighter fluid because he didn't want any DNA whatsoever, a 5-year-old girl. You know what? He left a palm print on her forehead underneath the scarred skin. Now we have great new technology, DNA, and some really good forensic experts. The FBI, local police work together. And you know what? He was a registered sex offender. That's how we're tripping these guys up now because of Megan's Law, where once they're a sex offender, they have to be registered. It came up, the handprint came up in the old days when you and I first started talking about this 18 years ago. We'd have never caught the guy. He would have never been in a computer bank. He wouldn't have been in a registered sex offender's bank.
John, by the way, used to come on my radio show on Mutual, the show that started talk radio, I guess.
Absolutely.
Nationally. And John was a regular guest before he hosted America's Most Wanted when the book came out about...
It was an honor, and you helped me get a lot of legislation passed in those days. You really did.
So these are the hardest to catch because they're crazy and smart?
Not crazy. FBI profilers say that they're deranged in their sexual preference, usually very smart, not insane. And I've been doing America's Most Wanted 15 years, and we've caught people in 30 countries with the help of the worldwide public. The toughest to catch, the child killer. He never confesses. He never lays in the prison cell and says to the guy next to him, you know, I feel real guilty about murdering that child or sexually abusing that child, because he knows they hate him in prison. They have their own code of honor in prison. So these are the toughest guys to catch.
Do we know why they go after kids?
You know, we've been studying this for years. Dr. Gene Abel of Emory University in Atlanta, very prestigious school, he studied pedophiles. He studied them, about 600 of them, over a 10-year period. Those pedophiles were convicted of or admitted to over 6,000 molestations of boys and girls. They all said the same thing. It's our sexual preference. We don't know why we do it, but we know one thing. We'll keep doing it. You must separate us from society. And that's my feeling. When they cross that line, I don't know what to do. Lock away the key. Nobody knows why they do it, but it's a sexual preference.
I know you're a Catholic.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about the priest situation as well. We also want to talk about a runaway who was caught tonight. And the girl apparently is okay. We'll be right back with John Walsh, and this Saturday night he'll cover the Portland case on his own program. We'll be including calls tonight. Tomorrow night, in his first television appearance since all the fuss over being dropped by PBS, Louis Ruckeiser will be our special guest tomorrow night to tell about what happened, what he may do next. Louis Ruckeiser tomorrow night. Right back with John Walsh. Don't go away.
13-year-old Ashley disappeared on her way to school here in Oregon City, Oregon on January 9th. Her friend Miranda, also 13, disappeared from the exact same spot 2 months later, on March 8th. Ashley was last seen wearing Tommy Hilfiger blue jeans, white Skechers tennis shoes, and her Tweety Bird watch with the pink wristband she got for Christmas. Miranda was last seen wearing blue jeans, a blue hooded sweatshirt, and a blue or tan book bag. If you know anything about their disappearance, call us tonight at 1-800-CRIME-TV.
The following message is brought to you by NCPI, the National Council on Patient Information and Education. To learn more about the responsible use of medicine, visit www.bmedwise.org.
What you eat doesn't just affect you physically, it can also shape your mood. Dietitians recommend eating colorful, antioxidant-rich fruits and vegetables, especially those with vitamins B and C every 4 hours. And healthy fats, like nuts, avocados, and olive oil, can help lift your mood and bolster your immune system. If you already feel stressed, stay away from sugar and caffeine. Excess caffeine can deplete our energy levels and can increase a stress hormone in the body.
I have to admit, I'd never given it that much thought. Taking different medicines at the same time, I mean. But you have to be careful. I had this bad cold, so I started taking a cold medicine and then a pain reliever to bring down my fever, until my wife pointed out that the cold medicine already contained a pain reliever. So I was actually taking double the dose without even realizing it. The best way to be sure is to know your medicines. Always compare labels. Take the time to be careful.
Losing a little information is no big deal, right? After all, it's not like it's critical to your business. A reminder from the first name in business continuity, EMC, where information lives.
We get it first. We get it right. And more often, we're the only ones who get it. Every day, every night, everywhere, you can depend on CNN to see what happens next.
Middle East violence spills into Europe. Attacks on synagogues there. I'm Paula Zahn. On the next American Morning, is there a growing new wave of anti-Semitism? Tomorrow at 7 a.m. Eastern.
Give me a really different and interesting way to tell the story. Who connects the story to the viewer's life? It's not enough to have a great story. We have to be great storytellers.
By the way, for over 20 years, I've called him Louis Ruckeiser, and I'm now corrected. I understand it's Louis Ruckeiser. I've interviewed him, but I've always called him Louis Ruckeiser. But it's Louis Ruckeiser, so I apologize. Rook, not Ruck. Our guest is John Walsh, a 13-year-old girl who ran away with a North Carolina man she met on the internet. Authorities suspect that Cheyenne Simmons of Panorama City, California, traveling with 25-year-old Michael Allen Hulst of Jacksonville, he drove across the country to marry her. Hulst is wanted in connection for transporting a minor across state lines. This afternoon, outside Tombstone, Arizona, in Cochise County, a witness recognized the pair at a rest stop, reported them to the police. The man is under arrest. The girl is in protective custody. Even if she is willing, this is still a crime.
She's
right?
13, Larry. She's 13. What does a 13-year-old girl know? This guy lures her off the internet. He's 25 years old, drives all across the country. How would she know that he wasn't going to tie her up in a motel and rape her and kill her? How did she know that he wasn't a pervert? But I'll tell you what, I'm so relieved that this happened today. We were going to put this girl on Saturday Night Show. You know what this is testimony to? The media. The media covering this. Great FBI work. Getting on this case right away, getting into the computer and saying, okay, here's our suspect. He visited her in a chat room. They tracked down where he came from in Jacksonville, get his MO, put it on the national news. You know why she's safe today? And they didn't get a chance to do something terrible to her? Because of the media. That's how powerful
she says he was very nice. He never touched me. There was nothing sexual. He was teaching me about the world. We were thinking about maybe getting married. We were going to get parents' permission, or she covers for him.
Right. Still
ain't going to work.
It isn't going to work. She's 13. The law is very, very clear. This guy knows better. He's 25 years old. He knows he did something wrong. There's no excuse. Come on. There's no equal power base there. There's no excuse. It's exploitation. And he's going to pay. He's going to pay. He came and got her, and he took her.
You are Catholic.
Yes, I am. I'm a Roman Catholic my whole life.
What do you make of the obvious?
Well, you know something? It's about time this all came out. It's about time. We have been talking about pedophile priests ever since I was a young guy. I think it's the biggest transgression of trust when you are going to your priest for counsel, or it's an authority figure that you trust so much, and you're a young lady or a young boy that's been molested by priests. And the Catholic Church has paid out over $1 billion worth of out-of-court settlements of money that I donated to the church and other Catholics over the last 20 years, and they've shuttled around pedophile priests from one parish to the next, knowing that they're predators. You and I have talked about their predators. And I asked one question. Why didn't the Pope in his recent address address the victims? Why didn't he apologize for the church to the victims? I hear cardinals and bishops saying, well, we did this, we made a mistake, these priests, we shouldn't have done this. What about the victims? And I'll say the one thing that nobody seems to be dealing with. If you molested a 10-year-old altar boy or a little girl, or I molested him, we'd be in jail. You know we'd be in jail. If a rabbi did it, if a Protestant minister, they'd be in jail. Those pedophile priests should be in jail. They should be prosecuted under criminal prosecution. Forget about the civil penalties. Forget about settling out of court. Forget about sending them to a monastery somewhere to rehabilitate them, to put them somewhere else. You molest a 10-year-old boy, you should pay the price.
Do you wonder why they do this?
Because, I listened to Meet the Press on Sunday. I thought it was a terrific show, and one priest really had the guts to say it. For years, we've known that a lot of priests were gay in the priesthood. Everybody knows that. Everybody knows a gay priest because they'd get pressure on them to say, how come you're not married? So it was an easy out to join the priesthood. Doesn't mean they're not a good priest. Doesn't mean that they're not a good person.
And there's alcoholic priests.
Lots of alcoholic priests. It's a great place to drink. You don't ever have to drive anywhere. You're in the rectory and you're drunk every day. I went to Carmelite High School, and I knew there were alcoholic priests in that high school. You could smell it on their breath every day. But a pedophile priest, the church up until now was a great place to hide out. It was like, single people go to single bars to meet other single people. For priests, pedophile priests, it was open season. They had great access to children, and they knew the church would protect them. That if accusations were made, the church would pay off, and they'd be shipped to Arizona somewhere.
Do you think there's a higher degree in the population of priests that are pedophiles than in the general population, or is there just a lot of pedophiles?
I think we're coming to grips with the fact that there's a lot of pedophiles, that there are people. I was in Broward County about a month ago riding with a fugitive squad, and I asked the head of the fugitive squad, real brave guys who go out in the middle of the night and take down fugitives. He says, we're going after some sexual predators tonight. I said, how many registered sex offenders are there in Broward County? He says, we've got 900 registered sex offenders. 13 are on the predator status. There's the really, really violent ones. And I think we're just coming to grips with the fact that pedophiles are everywhere in society, and the priesthood used to be a great place to hide out. But I still say the same thing. If they do the crime, they should do the time.
So you don't think the ending of, say, of celibacy would end it?
I do. I absolutely do. I mean, there may be some priests who want to choose celibacy, and they can be great priests. But I'll tell you what, when my son was murdered and I went to the Catholic priesthood and to my cousin who's a Monsignor, a wonderful guy, they couldn't console me. They've never had a child. You and I talk about the special love of a child. How can someone who's never had a child or someone who's never been married talk to someone and give them advice of how to deal with a rocky, road through your marriage, or how to deal with the loss of a child?
Sexual problems.
Absolutely, sexual problems. I think that it would be wonderful if the Catholic Church allowed priests to be married. Every other religion, and there are parts of the Catholic Church which has just come to light, in other countries, in Eastern countries, where the priests can be married.
And it just happened in the 3rd century. This was not some edict of the founders of the faith.
Absolutely, absolutely. I honestly think if priests had the option, we'd have a lot better priests. And you know what? Something like 20,000 priests have quit the priesthood in the last 10 years or so because it's so tough. And I'd say, you know what? Number of priests is declining so rapidly, it's time to change. Join the 21st century.
More with John Walsh, the host of America's Most Wanted, America Strikes Back, on every Saturday night, including your phone calls in a little while, too. Don't go away.
Now it's time to announce the latest member of the FBI's top 10 list. Michael Scott Bliss is wanted for repeatedly molesting a 9-year-old girl, and that's not all. He's already served 9 years in prison for nearly killing 3 boys with a baseball bat. Well, let's put him back behind bars tonight. Michael Bliss is left-handed, and he's known to roll his own cigarettes. He may be working as a delivery truck driver and sleeping in highway rest stops. If you know where Michael Scott Bliss is, call 1-800-CRIME-TV right now.
Crossfire. It's Carville versus Novak live. Is Israel doing enough to protect Christian holy sites? Reverend Jerry Falwell joins the debate in the Crossfire. 7 Eastern on CNN tomorrow night.
He is the greatest of all time. He hits the shots you can't forget. And now, he's back. The NBA returns every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday on TBS and TNT. Michael Jordan returns with a new team to take on old rivals and new challengers. Don't miss the return of a legend all season long. See primetime NBA action every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday on TBS and TNT.
He's been one of PBS's most acclaimed hosts for decades. Now he's been fired. Louis Rookheiser on Larry King Live, 9 Eastern on CNN tomorrow night.
The lap of luxury. Just log on to Tonkin.com and shop our huge selection for the car you love without ever leaving the lazy boy.
When you have money problems, just going to the mailbox can be frightening. It's the same when the phone rings. You know it's another creditor. I thought bankruptcy was the only way out. Then I called Ameridebt.
Every day, Ameridebt helps more people with money problems. We're a nonprofit organization offering free consultations to consumers seeking to eliminate their debt.
Now my balances are dropping, and I only have one small monthly payment.
Call this number regardless of your situation. Ameridebt, helping America get out of debt.
This is CNN.
Louis Rookheiser tomorrow night. We'll be getting to your calls a little while. John Walsh is our special guest, and he's going to start his own talk show. Everybody gets into the act. This September on NBC, a daytime talk show. Looking forward to that?
I am. I'm honored that NBC would ask me. I've been asked many, many times. I think there's a place in the daytime market for serious things. I'd like to do it the old Phil Donahue style, very serious topics.
Issues
no transvestite midgets from Mars, just something real serious. And I think the public, by evidence of how much the news channels have gone up in the ratings, the American public's serious now. They want to know what's going on.
The John Walsh Show.
You got it. Mm-hmm.
All right, the Van Damme, Danielle Van Damme, that killing and the involvement of the parents. Do you at all, I know you're friends with the parents and they were on this show, blame them for, they admit marijuana use that night? And
I think it's apples and oranges. I think this guy had met Danielle when she came to sell him, the accused, that he had met Danielle when she came to sell him Girl Scout cookies. He became obsessed and focused in on her. He's a predator, in my opinion. What the parents do has nothing to do with the fact that this guy wanted to get this little girl, and he got her. The trial's coming up. It's going to be tough on this family because every part of your life comes out in that
That's the
trial.
worst, right?
It's going to be the worst, but you know what? They've done a great job, the police department down there. They've got a lot of evidence. They've got DNA, and I think this guy's going down.
What's your read on the whole Andrea Yates matter?
I talked about it. Just before that, I'd come on here to do the case of Christian Longo, the guy from Oregon who killed his 3 kids and his wife just before Christmas and went on the run, and we caught him in Mexico. He was down there drinking, partying.
Is he in jail now?
He's in jail back there facing the death penalty. And, this guy was snorkeling and drinking pina coladas after killing his kids. This is a very mentally ill woman, Larry. I don't think she should have faced the death penalty. She's very, very sick. I think the jury did the right thing. She'll be in jail the rest of her life. She should pay. I mean, God forbid she got out 20 years from now and they said, quote, she was cured and killed somebody else's child. But I don't think she should have.
How
gone
about her
to jail.
husband?
I can't figure this guy out, Larry. I mean,
He was on this show.
I know you talked to him. I don't know how everybody says he's a control freak. Here's a woman that's overwhelmed, got 5 kids in the house. He said he never changed a diaper. I've changed a ton of diapers over the years, and I think a participating father is right in there. I don't know how you don't know that your wife is so mentally ill that you don't go outside and you get some help. Now he's blaming the system. I mean, I don't understand that. I can't figure this guy out. I don't say it had anything to do with it, but I don't know how you can't figure out that your wife is desperately mentally ill and needs some help.
Robert Blake's wife.
Geez, you know, the LAPD is going very slow on this case because they learned one thing from O.J., that, you know what, a couple of hotshot attorneys can tear you apart in that courtroom if you haven't crossed your T's and dotted your I's. I think they're going to get ready to indict somebody pretty soon. That's the scuttlebutt. That's the word. I've talked to, you know, LAPD, and they said, you know what, we're not going to be ramrodded by the media into talking about this. We're not going to make a mistake. When we indict somebody, we're going to know who did it. I just don't like, and I said it to you before, I don't think, no matter how much you don't like the person you're married to or you aren't married to, the day after she's murdered, I don't think you get a lawyer and start disparaging her. I don't think you start casting aspersions on her character. I don't think you start striking out the day afterward. You know what you do? You feel sorry for her, you mourn for her, you have a daughter in common. I think this is really, really strange behavior that you start disparaging your murdered wife the day after she was murdered.
You have interest in the Skakel case?
The Skakel case, you know, I think it's going to set precedent in this country because I'm a great believer in going back and solving cold cases. We've done a lot of them on America's Most Wanted.
Boy, that's a cold one.
That's a really cold one. I'm glad that the judge had the guts to say I'm going to try him as an adult. I think it's a crapshoot. I think the prosecution is going to have a real tough time. But you know what? I always believe justice delayed is not justice denied. I'd like to see something positive come out of this.
I know you're very interested in this Daniel Perez case. What is that?
Well, Daniel Perez is
By the way, we'll be taking calls right at the bottom of the hour.
Daniel Perez is a real lowlife. His wife wanted to leave him because he was violent. Larry, he stalked her, he tracked her down. She went to meet with him. You know how these poor women say, maybe we can work this out, you're terrifying me. He followed her and shot her in the head in broad daylight at a gas station in front of everybody and cold-bloodedly walked away from her. I don't know how a judge ever released him, but he posted a $2 million bond. This guy shot his estranged wife in front of 20 witnesses in the head. She almost died, and they let him out on $2 million.
Bond.
He got bonded out. I don't know what this judge was thinking.
Where was this?
California. And you know what he did? He went into the home of her father, who he hated, who was going to testify against him, and he murdered her father in front of 5 children. Daniel Perez is on the top of my most wanted list, along with a couple other pedophiles.
I mean, he's on bond.
$2 million bond.
Murdered someone else.
He kills his estranged...
You have any idea where he went there?
Nobody knows. They think he's on the run with a gangbanger, another guy, a buddy of his, maybe in Mexico, maybe coming back and forth. But how he got bonded out, he threatened the family. They had no protection. He broke into the house and cold-bloodedly shot his estranged wife's father in front of 5 kids.
How did he get $2 million? He needed $200,000.
He got him from some low-life buddies somewhere, or put up his house or something. I guess so, I don't know how he got it.
Was the judge asked to explain why he gave the bond?
Oh boy, the judge is in hot water. The judge is in hot water because everybody's asking the same question. You knew this is a violent guy. The prosecutor told you that he cold-bloodedly shot his wife in front of 20 witnesses. You know that he hates the family. You know he's threatened the family. Why didn't you put the bond at $5 million? Why didn't you not? You know, judges can deny bond all the time. It drives me crazy.
A capital case, yeah.
Yeah, but a capital case. It was attempted cold-blooded first-degree murder. It was a capital case, attempted first-degree murder. I don't know. This judge is going to have to live with the rest of his life because 5 little kids watched their father murdered by this guy in front of them.
Before your son was killed, abducted and killed, did you have any interest in law, crime, and other than just the passing interest of a citizen?
Nope. You know, I look back how naive I was. You know, I was building a $26 million hotel in the Bahamas in Paradise Island, successful at a very young age. You know what I thought? That only crime happened in the ghetto. Only people that lived in the ghetto. Because I lived in Hollywood, Florida, you know South Florida. Hollywood was beautiful in those days, and I would drive to Coral Gables. I lived in a naive world that crime couldn't impact anybody. But I'll tell you who really summed it up one time was Bill Cosby after his son was murdered. We belong to this terrible club of parents of murdered children. He says, in this country, anybody can be a crime victim anytime. He said, maybe our greatest basketball player, Michael Jordan's father, was killed for a Lexus. He said, my son was killed in Beverly Hills, not in East LA, not in Harlem, not in Watts. He was killed in Beverly Hills for a car. He says, you know what, we ought to wake up and realize that anybody can be a crime victim anytime.
John Walsh, the host of America's Most Wanted, America Strikes Back on Fox. He'll host his own talk show on NBC this fall, and we'll take your calls right after these words.
20 years ago, John Patrick Addis was a cop's cop. He was a young, ambitious state trooper in Fairbanks, Alaska. He quickly advanced from patrolling the highways to the Criminal Investigation Division. Addis started dating Joanne Albanese, a successful businesswoman and divorced mother of 2. On August 19, 1995, Joanne decided to tell Addis that the relationship was over. 4 days later, Joanne's car was found abandoned 200 miles away near Prescott, Arizona. There was no sign of Joanne or John Addis. Investigators were certain Addis had murdered Joanne Albanese, but he left no physical evidence, no defined crime scene, and most important, no corpse.
Getting pumped before your next meeting? I like that strategy, but that game face could use a little work. You have to go for everything. That gives you an advantage over the competition. Thanks. Good job.
Want to be on top of your game? Count on Marriott for everything from business services to room service.
Grinch up that nose. You just gotta feel the face. You just gotta feel it.
Make 3 stays and earn 2 free nights. Call 1-888-MARRIOTT today. Marriott Hotels, Resorts, and Suites. You're Marriott away.
It's tough to see things clearly these days. The situation in the world, our economy, your investments. But investing is the job at Janus, and Janus is working to spot opportunities, using the approach that's worked long-term, applying lessons from the recent past, investing in companies that show signs they can perform in this economy and into the next. Get there. Janus.
Weekdays, go inside politics with Judy Woodruff. It's the big story, the inside buzz, and unique perspectives. From Washington,
A breaking story at this hour reports about threats.
the nation,
The president's hope is that such reminders help him in the
and the campaign trail.
So does he want to run for president or doesn't he? Someone who's been talking.
For the latest news from the world of politics, go inside politics with Judy Woodruff, 4 Eastern, CNN Weekdays.
For the best movies, shows, and sports, there's only one network to watch. TBS Superstation, home of cable's top 3 theatrical movies last month, including number 1, Wild Wild West, and number 2, Unforgiven. And when it comes to big premieres, we've got the best right here. For everything you want to watch, look no further. Hey, no wonder they call it the Superstation.
Surrounded by Israeli forces, Yasser Arafat spoke first and exclusively to CNN. No one else gets you this close. For up-to-the-minute and exclusive coverage of events in the Middle East, stay with CNN.
We're back. Our special guest, John Walsh. We'll go to your calls in a moment, but that clip we just showed you about the case of John Patrick Addis, a former Alaskan state trooper, expertise in forensics and criminal investigation, avid bodybuilder, and they're trying to find him for the kidnapping and murder of his girlfriend 7 years ago.
Tough guy to catch. I've been profiling this guy for several years now. As you mentioned, he was a homicide investigator in Alaska, so he knows all about crime scenes.
This is obviously a crime of passion, right?
Well, he was an exploiter of women. When he stopped being a cop, he became a bodybuilder and worked in gyms, went to Las Vegas. He exploited several women. He was a hustler.
He didn't kill her when he was a cop, then?
No, he was a personal trainer and a kind of a gigolo exploiter of single women.
How does he stay loose like this?
Well, I think he's smart. I think he hid the body. They didn't find the body for 3 years because he's a crime scene investigator. So he hid it out in the woods. He got a good head start. They finally indicted him. And I think I think his ego's going to trip him up because he thinks he's got a great body. He's always worked in gyms. He thinks he's real smart and real handsome. I think somebody's going to spot him somewhere, but he's been a real tough guy to catch because he knows the system.
Well, doesn't he know that he knows that?
Oh, yeah. He watches the show, I'm sure he does, and he knows it.
Albuquerque, New Mexico, as we go to calls for John Walsh, an American hero. Hello.
Mr. Walsh, good evening.
Good evening.
What are your recommendations to make punishment fit these crimes against our children? Because what we have do not seem to be working.
Well, you're absolutely right. I really urge all Americans, now that there's so much attention to crimes against children, is to realize that the criminal justice system lets children down all the time. That the simple case in El Paso, when a guy rapes an 8-year-old girl, how does he get out of jail after only serving 1 year? I mean, these people need to pay for their crimes. And the only way you can make them pay for their crimes is to go to before state legislatures like they've done in certain states and pass really tough penalties and keep these people in jail.
The guy who's out after you, what does the parole record show? They're records, right? They keep a record.
Absolutely.
What was said? What do we find out why they let him go? ago.
It's mind-boggling. Until Texas, cleaned up their parole system in when Ann Richards was governor, guys were buying their way out by paying $500 and getting a former parole board consultant that might be head of the parole board. There are so many inequities in the criminal justice system, but these guys they're especially the child exploiters, Larry, are masters at manipulating parole boards and saying, I'll go to the meetings, I'm rehabilitated. We know they can't be rehabilitated, but the laws need to be stiffened.
Alexandria, Virginia, for John Walsh. Hello.
Hi, John. I really admire you, and I was just wondering, do you think that sexual predators of young children can ever be cured? And if not, what do you think should be done with them?
Well, first of all, I don't think they can be cured. We've never been able to figure it out, and I've always said it. You can study them when they die, study their brains, study their genes, study their background, whatever, but studies have proven conclusively that they can't be cured. This is their sexual preference. This is their predilection. This is what turns them on.
Even those that willingly participate in psychiatric examinations, willing to talk about, willing to try to find it.
Big smoke screen. I'm telling you from personal experience, probably 40 or 50 of the pedophiles that I've done on America's Most Wanted have rap sheets 5 miles long. They've been in therapy. They've gone to group sessions. That's the way they get out. I do know one thing. The longer you keep them in prison, the less chance they have to get at children. The older they get, the less risk they are. So my philosophy is, when they've crossed that line, when they've hurt a child, put them away, throw away the key, let them out when they're an old man. But I also believe in Megan's Law, the sex offender registry, and people don't know this, that every police department and sheriff's department in the country is mandated to keep a sex offender registry. So where you live, if you want to know who's a sexual predator living next door to you, go and visit the website of your police department or your sheriff's department, or call them up and say, I want to know if a sexual predator or a sexual molester lives next door to me. There are so many of them in Oregon City, where these two girls that are missing, that the FBI is slowly going to interview them. There were some 50-some around Danielle Van Dam's house that they were interviewing. So people have the right to know.
Tampa, Florida, for John Walsh. Hello.
Yes, Larry. My question for Mr. Walsh is, the government has proposed using a DNA data bank to keep track of terrorists and detainees. How do you feel about using that same technology to keep track of child predators?
Terrific question. I absolutely am an advocate of DNA banks. How
does that work?
Well, here's what happens. You're a convicted felon, not you've been accused, not you're convicted. You're a convicted sex offender or rapist or violent criminal. You're coming up for parole or whatever. Your DNA goes into a bank. Several states now have their own DNA criminal banks. And the FBI is trying to establish a national DNA bank. And do you know what? Tons of crimes have been solved because they'll have a victim, but they won't have a suspect. They'll have DNA. They access the DNA bank and say, oh my God, it's Bob Smith. He's a sexual predator. He's in jail in Oregon. He committed this rape 6 months ago or whatever. I am an absolute advocate of DNA. Convicted felons, I'm not talking about violating the civil liberties of anybody. Once you cross that line and you're a convicted felon of a violent crime, you should be in that DNA bank, especially if you're getting out of prison.
And you also agree that even though the person may have served the time, forget parole, he served his full time, the people on the block have a right to know that a convicted sexual predator lives on the block.
Absolutely, because you know what? He's given up his rights. When he sodomized or raped that little girl or that little boy and he's been convicted, even though he's done his time, he crossed that line. You know what Megan's Law and the sex offender registries are about? About children's rights. They're about parents' rights. It's about time we started thinking about the victims.
John Walsh is our guest, back with more phone calls. Louis Rookheiser tomorrow night. Friday night, a tribute to Lawrence Welk. 50 years, an icon on American television. We'll be right back.
Surgeons rushed to save Daryl's life. Daryl found the strength to survive and the courage to identify John Boyd as the man he says nearly killed him. Police quickly arrested John Boyd, as well as 2 of his accomplices. But the third accomplice, Demetrius Androsopoulos, was able to get out of Oquaca before police could bring him in. Daryl will be paralyzed for the rest of his life. He's experienced horror no child or adult should ever have to live through, and often thinks about the father he lost so young in life.
Losing a little information is no big deal, right? After all, it's not like it's critical to your business. A reminder from the first name in business continuity, EMC, where information lives.
Now is the best time to join America Online.
AOL is very easy to use.
Anyone can do it.
You've got mail.
I love AOL email.
Click and send. Everybody I know is on AOL.
I do feel good knowing that AOL has parental controls.
AOL is already installed on most computers, probably even yours. Just look for the AOL icon on your desktop, click, and you're on. It's that easy.
Welcome.
It's the best thing we ever did. America Online is closer than you think. Look for the AOL icon today right on your computer or call 1-800-4ONLINE. So easy to use, no wonder it's #1.
They're timeless. They've set standards for greatness. The movies that define what it is to be a classic. They are the essentials. This week, a veteran lawman tests his convictions by defending a town unworthy of a hero. The clock ticks as Gary Cooper and Grace Kelly await their fate in the politically charged western High Noon. It's one of the essentials. Hosted by Rob Reiner. Sunday at 6 p.m., completely commercial-free, only on Turner Classic Movies.
As America plays on, heroes make us proud and make us cheer. Get the latest sports with Larry Smith and Ray DeLesio at 12 and 42 past the hour. CNN Headline News. Real news 24/7.
Middle East violence spills into Europe. Attacks on synagogues there. I'm Paula Zahn. On the next American Morning, is there a growing new wave of anti-Semitism? Tomorrow at 7 a.m. Eastern.
You must listen to me. You must be. You must be.
While you're watching them, ever wanted to know what she's looking at? And what's happening back here? And where does this map come from? Well, quit wondering and come visit the world's news leader, CNN. We'll take you beyond the headlines and behind the scenes to show you what it takes to bring the world to your television every single day. You've never seen anything quite like this before. And when you're done, stop by the Turner store for a souvenir or a special video starring you. So what are you waiting for? Step inside the CNN Studio Tour, where you're in the news.
We're back with John Walsh. Before we go back to the calls, tell us about that case we just saw going out of Androsopoulos.
Demetrius Androsopoulos, again, right at the top of my list of the biggest coward scumbags going. He and those 4 guys tortured the father all night long, strangle him to get money, and they thought he had some marijuana in the house. They tortured the 12-year-old son that you saw there in that wheelchair.
Just the father and son were there?
Father and son were there in the house. They tortured the son in front of the father to get him to tell where he had whatever hidden, money or some marijuana, they thought. They stabbed and murdered the father in front of the son. They stabbed that little boy in the back, in his spine, and he'll be paralyzed the rest of his life. They thought he was dead. They left the house, thought that they'd killed both of them. The boy survived miraculously and gave the names to the cops of one of the 4 guys. 3 of them have been caught. This coward is still out there. I don't know how you do this.
Have 3 been convicted?
3, they're going to trial. How do you torture a 12-year-old boy in front of his father and strangle him and stab him?
So who's the guy missing?
Demetrius Androsopoulos. This is the guy. I want him. He's right up there in my top 10. This guy, this coward, murders a father right in front of a 12-year-old boy and paralyzes him for life. Unbelievable.
Eureka, California, for John Walsh. Hello.
Hi, John. I appreciate you so much as a child, and I just had a question for you. What do you think about using the computer chips underneath the skin to find missing children and to protect our children? Do you agree or disagree?
Well, it's a new concept. You put the chip in the child, and you can follow them everywhere.
Absolutely. You know something?
Take it out when they're adults.
Years ago, a dentist in South Florida, back when we both lived in South Florida, came up with the idea of implanting a chip in his child's tooth. If your child's missing, the first thing you want to know is where, and if they're dead, you want to get the body. The not knowing is what's killing these mothers up in Oregon, in Oregon City. Unfortunately, the technology didn't exist back then. It was only good for maybe about a 2-mile radius. It was a radio transmitter. Now we have the global positioning satellite. You know, this OnStar, if you get in a car accident, they know exactly where you are. They send 911, 911. I think it's a great idea. I know, and I've said it many, many times, you'd rather know what happened to your child. You'd rather find out what happened to them. than go to the morgue, claim
But if
their
they were
body.
kidnapped, you'd be able to trace them.
It would be phenomenal. I just hope somebody comes up with the technology. I don't know how you do it in your child. I think someone should examine the possibility of put it on children's teeth because we'd be catching these guys right and left, and we'd know where these kids were.
Long Beach, California. Hello.
Hello, Mr. King and Mr. Walsh. What can we do to make certain that these rapists and pedophiles go to jail and stay there with no possibility of parole?
Can the average citizen do?
Absolutely. You know, years ago I was interviewed by 30 female journalists, many, many years ago in South Florida, radio, television, and print reporters. And they said, Mr. Walsh, what can we really do? We're women, you know, there's only a few members of Congress that are women, you know, the glass ceiling, we aren't paid equal pay, etc. And I said, you know what, do me a favor. And they said, what can we do about predators? Women are we're raped, we're stalked. I said, each one of you ladies, write down your 2 U.S. senators, your member of Congress in the House of Representatives, and your state legislators. And give me the sheet. And you know what? Only one woman of the 30 could do it. She had been raped in a Jacksonville parking lot. She was an anchor and became an advocate. I said, you know what, ladies? You're in the media. You're sophisticated. You don't even know who you elected to Congress. You don't know who you elected to the state legislature. How are you going to change these laws? How you keep these guys in jail? Get involved. Next time that state legislator or that U.S. senator or that U.S. congressman or woman says, I want your $100, ask them about the Victims' Rights Constitutional Amendment that's going nowhere in Congress. Ask them about stiffing the penalties for child molesters. And you know what? That's how you get laws changed.
Is there a danger, John, do you ever think that possibly in discussing it like this, you create a paranoia?
I don't think so.
We start to overly worry about our kids and get overly protective.
I don't think there's such a thing as getting overly protective. When we constantly in the news, and I'm constantly back here talking to you about cases of missing children, about murdered children, we're constantly, you know, the head of Interpol said to me several years ago, you know, you Americans, you're so naive. You don't think anything can happen to you. Look at this map. I was in the map room at their Interpol secret headquarters, and they were showing all the terrorist attacks throughout the world, attacks against Americans in Beirut where they blew up 241 Marines. And they said, it's coming to you, but you're in denial. I don't believe in paranoia. I believe that knowledge is power. I really believe that education, that every school should have a mandatory program to teach kids about people who exploit them, what they should do, what are the good rules of protection. You know, we're waking up as a country. We really are waking up.
Why do you constantly refer to the perpetrators as cowards?
Because the vast majority of guys that I do are real cowards. They prey upon women and children. They wouldn't do it to a man. They wouldn't confront a man. A guy that sexually assaults a little child is a coward, is a low-life coward to me. A guy that rapes a woman, hurts a woman, murders a woman, a serial killer, they're cowards. They don't have the guts, you know, and I look at them as
what
dogs.
If you can't help, there was a famous movie years ago called The Mark, a wonderful movie, and a predator was the central figure, and he said, I feel like I'm in an automobile. I have no legs. I'm going downhill. I can't reach the brake, and there's a child at the bottom of the hill. In other words, I can't help it.
Great analogy.
Isn't there some sorrow for that?
I
mean, I know it's terrible.
Yeah,
but
it's
he can't
reality.
help it.
It's the reality. It's the reality that I had to face 20 years ago, that there were sexual predators and child molesters out there. I never dreamed my beautiful 6.5-year-old son could be kidnapped. I never dreamed he would be brutally murdered. I never dreamed it would be by someone that was sexually obsessed with 6-year-old boys. But I live in the world of reality. I know one thing over 15 years on America's Most Wanted. A lot of evil walks on this planet. There's a lot of bad guys out there. Most of them are cowards and they're dogs, and they need to be hunted down like the dogs they are.
Any of them women?
Some of them are women. This week's show is called Bad Girls. It's all about women that have killed or exploited people, but the vast majority of the violent offenders are men.
Any
Absolutely.
women predators?
The only serial killer ever was, woman serial killer was Elaine Warnos, who's on death row in Florida right now.
And she's thrown her lawyers out and wants to die.
She wants to die. She had a horrible childhood, Larry. She was sexually assaulted, thrown out she was a throwaway child at 11. She was on the streets at 11 years old. She was raped 6 times in 1 month.
So
I'm not
she
saying
became
that's
a prostitute who killed the
got even with men. I'm not saying it's justification because you're molested or abused. Lots of guys in jail use this as a cop-out, but it's the majority of them are men without a doubt, and they're cowards.
Back with our remaining moments with John Walsh on this edition of Larry King Live. Stay there.
Parents in this working-class community in Long Beach, California, thought of Richard Goldberg as a friend. Goldberg had turned his backyard into a child's paradise, with swings and a pen for pet rabbits and ducks. Inside his home, kids could play with computer games and art supplies. But what no parent here knew, cops say, was that Goldberg's interest in their children was far from innocent. Cops investigated, and everyone's worst fears were confirmed.
He has already assaulted 6 kids, and we know that these guys don't stop.
Before cops could close in, Goldberg took off. If you have any information about Richard Goldberg, please call our hotline at 1-800-CRIME-TV.
CNN tomorrow on the all-new Crossfire. It's Carville versus Novak live. Is Israel doing enough to protect Christian holy sites? Reverend Jerry Falwell joins the debate in the Crossfire. 7 Eastern on CNN tomorrow night.
A respected newsman with a different way of looking at the story. Join Aaron Brown for Newsnight every weeknight at 10 Eastern. You can depend on CNN.
Little Bell! Little Bell!
The Thompsons are finicky about their yard. That's why they depend on their Hondas. Lightweight and easy starting, super quiet. Honda Power Equipment helps make the Thompsons' yard nice and attractive.
Little Bell! No!
Maybe too attractive.
Trust Stark Street Lawn and Garden for your yard tool needs. Portland's Power Equipment connection.
It was the weekend and I had a toothache. I couldn't see my dentist till Monday. Glad I found Oragel.
Pain pills take up to 30 minutes to work, but maximum strength Oragel works instantly at the site of pain.
Sure works fast.
Go instantly to relief with Oragel.
Do you really know what you're putting into your eyes? Fortunately, there's one way to know. Eye doctor recommended Similasan eye drops. Similasan offers safe, soothing relief without chemicals. And isn't that a relief? Similasan eye drops #1 for dry, red eyes.
The Jiffy Lube Signature Service Oil changed every 3,000 miles. If you want your car to run like a well-oiled machine, take it to the place that works like one. Jiffy Lube, the well-oiled machine.
Right here in Lake Oswego, Tigard, Tualatin, and Aloha. Come on in for our Signature Service Oil change and experience our well-oiled machine.
Wherever terror raises its ugly head, there so shall we be.
We are a great people, and we do great things, and the world is a safer place because America...
I am non-apologetically a conservative. We have the top newsmakers of the day, the people involved in the stories, different angles. We seek out opposing viewpoints, and then we let the audience decide.
Stand up for freedom.
Sean Hannity's now on the radio, noon to 3 weekdays on News Talk 860 KPEM. CNN. This is CNN.
To this day, most people in the low-riding industry still fear these accused killers, but a few brave tipsters are willing to take a stand.
I'm afraid, but I've got to do what my conscience leads me to do. I've had the Lopez brothers' pictures on my doors for as long as I've had the posters, because Mr. Miller meant that much to me, and I respected him and loved him, not only as a friend, but as a family member.
Take another look at the Lopez brothers. Ruben Lopez is 5'8" and about 180 pounds. His brother David is shorter and stockier at 5'4" and 175 pounds. If you've seen either of our fugitives, call us now at 1-800-CRIME-TV.
Before I ask about the Lopez's, John, what about Steve Goldberg?
Typical pedophile. Sets his house up like a children's palace. He's got ducks and rabbits in the backyard. He's taken kids to Disney World, and he's accused of molesting 6 little girls, which he actually videotaped the molestation and kept it on his computer on a CD-ROM so he could review it. Typical pedophile, and I've only got to ask people that, and he preyed a lot about single mothers, you know, mothers that are overworked, they're
So
divorced.
if you got someone in your neighborhood that loves kids and invites them over, be careful.
Be street smart. I mean, there's tons of people out here who work with
What do you
kids.
do, go to the house
great.
or what?
Absolutely, check it out. I mean, isn't it? Weren't these people suspicious that he wasn't dating anybody? He showed no interest in the mothers.
This was in Long Beach.
Yeah, Long Beach. He always had the kids over alone. He'd take the kids to Disney World, and you know how he got caught with some of the kids that he had over there, little girls, were accessing his computer. They saw pictures of their neighbors naked with him having sex with him and told the police. Now, those are some brave little girls. He got away before they got the indictment.
What's the Lopez brothers?
Lopez brothers, I've profiled these guys for years. They were millionaires in the lowrider business. You know, the cars that go up and down, bounce up and down. They made tons of money in customizing cars, and they had a competitor, the Millers. And they hired 3 hitmen to kill 61-year-old Mr. Miller, who was their competitor. What a way to eliminate the competition. Horrible. The hitmen got caught, confessed, and turned the Lopez brothers in, and they were just greedy predators who hired a hitman to kill a 61-year-old.
They've been missing how long?
They've been out there since 1990. They've been out there. I know, they've been out there. I think they've gone back and forth into Mexico, but I'll tell you what, we have a lot of Mexican viewers, and I think one of the days they're going to spot the Lopez brothers.
You never give up, do you?
Now, I say keep doing it. I've caught guys that have been out there 15 years.
Antigonish, Nova Scotia, for John Walsh. Hello.
Mr. Walsh, have you worked on the Chandra Levy case?
Yeah, I was very involved with the Chandra Levy case. Matter of fact, Larry and I did a special show about it, and I think we were the first one who brought up the fact that 2 young women were murdered in the DuPont Circle area in the previous year and a half before Chandra Levy, and that the D.C. police never really tied it together. And one of them was Joyce Chung, an INS lawyer, who looked just like Chandra Levy, who was walking home from a Starbucks and lived a quarter of a mile from Chandra Levy. She was missing 3 months, and they found her body in the Potomac River, decomposed. Another young woman who was an intern on Capitol Hill was murdered and found in a canal in Georgetown. You're familiar with D.C., very close to DuPont Circle, a year and a half before Chandra Levy was killed.
You have a gut feeling, therefore?
Serial killer in the DuPont Circle. Gary Condit, yes, a liar, had sex with her, never told anybody, but I'll tell you what, it's a double-edged sword. You wouldn't know Chandra Levy's name if Gary Condit hadn't lied about having sex with her. There's 5,000 missing women cases unsolved, never heard of in the FBI computer. You don't know the name of one.
Continue to work a case like that, or
they're still working it because of the high profile. They're still working the case. I think they know that they have a sexual predator in that area. They think that those murders were related. Gary Condit has been cleared. The public paid him back for his lying by not sending him back to Congress. But I'll tell you what, there's still 3 unsolved. 1 missing woman, Chandra Levy, and 2 unsolved homicides in that DuPont Circle area.
John, I don't know what to... It's always good seeing you.
Wonderful to see you, Larry.
John Walsh, what an incredible guy. The host of America's Most Wanted. We go back a long way. America Strikes Back. They'll be on again Saturday night looking at female provocateurs. His son Adam was abducted and killed in the summer of 1981, and I've been knowing him for 20 years. John Walsh. We'll take a break, come back, and tell you about tomorrow and Friday night and what's ahead on the weekend as well on this edition of Larry King Live. Stay right there.
On the WB Friday, TV Guide calls Reba one of TV's most valuable players. Now, what's her daughter gonna name this baby?
Pete is a cool name.
Laura's a pretty name.
Oh, yeah, for a girl.
The hit comedy Reba. Then, an all-new Maybe It's Me that's at one with nature.
Just smell that fresh, crisp...
Shut up! You're scaring the fish.
An all-new Maybe It's Me, right after Reba. Flip to the frog for comedy on the WB Friday night.
Cancer is such an isolating experience. I was first diagnosed with breast cancer when I was 26.
There's some very exciting work going on now to treat cancer.
I'm working on a cancer vaccine to help the body fight cancer cells.
Pharmaceutical companies are developing over 300 new medicines for cancer.
10 years ago, I might not be sitting here today.
We're working on drugs that directly affect people's lives.
I owe them my life.
While you're watching them, ever wanted to know what she's looking at? And what's happening back here? And where does this map come from? Well, quit wondering and come visit the world's news leader, CNN. We'll take you beyond the headlines and behind the scenes to show you what it takes to bring the world to your television every single day. You've never seen anything quite like this before. And when you're done, stop by the Turner store for a souvenir or a special video starring you. So what are you waiting for? Step inside the CNN Studio Tour, where you're in the news.
We get it first. We get it right. Smart. And more often, We're the only ones who get it. Every day, every night, everywhere, you can depend on CNN to see what happens next.
Snore Stop. Proven effective to stop or reduce the symptoms of snoring. Available in spray and tablet.